Hi, everybody. It's Craig in the room back with your Week 13 college football rundown of games. I think we have 56 games, so it's our biggest week, I think, since week 1. So we're going to have a ton of content. We're going to run through some of these lesser games a little quicker than normal just because, obviously, we want to spend more time with the bigger games that we like a little more. Also, don't forget, if you haven't done so, make sure you get in on our – people say, hey, what's your best bet? We get that in the comments probably more than anything else. Our best bets are always reserved for our clients, the people that pay us the money. So we make it very simple and very, very cheap for you. You can get both IC and myself for $99. DocSports.com/Craig Arun. That's the only place you can get it is at this link. So make sure you get in on it. Last week we slightly down week. We're going to be back at it this week. We have 14 plays for you in between Thursday through Monday night. What those plays will be, they come out at 6 p.m., so make sure you get on all these best lines by getting in, buying early. If you want in to get on extra stuff, we've got extra content, including I just posted a parlay prop for today for level 3. So if you get in level 3, you get 3 premium plays every day from Doc Sports Experts, plus some extra content. Plus, you get the level 2 and level 1. So if you want to get exactly what all those things are, click the link in the description to get all the details and to purchase. All right, IC, let's get to it. College football, week 13, just a couple weeks left. First game, one of those games we'll probably spend less time on. Sanford at Texas A&M. Texas A&M, a 54.5-point favorite, total 61.5. What do you like here?
Is that all? I mean, so you get to start the game 54 nothing. That's not bad at all. Look, Samford played Baylor actually to open up the year, and they lost 7-42, which isn't that bad. This team makes a lot of money for this game. Texas A&M, of course, comes off that nice win against South Carolina, 31-30, but they played like dog poop in that game. They were down 30-3 to the point where you had maybe South Carolina celebrating at halftime or not. I think Texas A&M is going to come out very focused this game. Okay, there's a reason why they're a 50-point favorite here today, and Texas A&M obviously after this has Texas, but they're not going to be looking ahead because that's the first sign of adversity that this team has kind of faced right off the bat, especially with their fan base at home. I think Texas A&M wins this game by possibly 56 or more. Look for a 63-3 type of score. Let me back Texas A&M here. All right, Craig, Miami here, 18-point chalk on the road against Virginia Tech. Interesting line here. Miami's still holding hopes for a better year, 8-2 and 3-7. Big win against NC State. I was on them last week. Virginia Tech, of course, comes off back-to-back losses against FSU and Louisiana Tech. They are 3-7. They're not going bowling. What do you think? Miami keeps it rolling here, makes a better resume. They won by 4 points last year, or Virginia Tech last hurrah, kumbaya moment here.
Before the James Franklin hiring, which happened just midweek, we're recording this on Wednesday, so it happened on, I believe, Tuesday. I kind of thought for Miami was going to be the play in this one, minus the points. I just think Miami, they need some style points here because looks like they're going to get in. The latest playoff rankings, they are in. But there's a lot that can happen with all these other conferences. They do not have any room for error. They have to win this. They have to win out. And I think they need a little style points. But I think that James Franklin hiring has a little momentum for the fan base, a little momentum for these players trying to audition for this new coaching staff. Give me Virginia Tech here plus 18. Nothing crazy on this one. I just kind of think they'll get up for this one. Next game, Kansas at Iowa State. It's been a tough year for Kansas. I thought Kansas could win this conference or at least have a chance to be in the mix at the end of the year. Man, has that not happened. They're just 5-5. They need one more win to become bowl eligible at Iowa State here. Iowa State's already bowl eligible at 6-4. Iowa State's favored by 4, total 55. What do you like?
Well, Kansas is 5-5 and Iowa State is 6-4. Kansas comes off that loss to Arizona 20-24. They played pretty well that game, to be honest with you, but they fell short at the end. Right, they were up going to the fourth quarter and fell short at the end. Still trying to make the bowl game here. They got Utah after this, so Iowa State 6-4, kind of disappointing year. Did beat TCU outright as a 7.5-point dog, to their credit. You have Kansas winning 45-36 last year, so Iowa State has that revenge coming in as well. I think both these offenses kind of sputtered last game too. The total sits at about 55. It does make sense to me that Kansas has a much better output on the offensive side. They did not score. They only scored 3 points in the second half in the last game, so I think that's going to motivate them. They also have an Iowa State team that only put up 20 points in their last game, and Iowa State, by the way, put up all 14 points in the fourth quarter, so they didn't play particularly well at the end. And with Kansas being an active dog and with Iowa State having revenge, put it all together, I like the over, Craig, between these two teams. Craig, I have a definite lean on this Missouri-Oklahoma game. I'll tell you about it in a second, but Missouri rolls into this game 7-3 here. Oklahoma 8-2 here. Oklahoma off of a big win against my Alabama team and beating Tennessee on the road, to their credit. Missouri, of course, beat them last year too. Keep in mind that, before I forget, make sure to join Craig and I for the football week this week. $99 for me, $99 for him, but you get them both of us combined for $99, an incredible deal. Plus, if you really want an edge, a teaching channel, if you will, YouTube Premium is the only way to go. You get an extra video from us every single day. You get a written summary from me with over 120 selections on it. And if you jump on Craig's package, you get mine free and Lenny free as well. What do you like about this game, Craig? Do you think Oklahoma gets it done here and stays in, or do you think Missouri, Missouri sort of kind of rolls from that Mississippi State win and builds off of that?
I thought that was a tough game. I thought it was a great win, actually, for Missouri. That would have been an easy spot to have a letdown after they've faced a brutal schedule over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, for them to be 7-3 with the schedule they have had to face in the last it's impressive.
The hardest schedules in America, yep.
Yeah, and then Oklahoma, speaking of tough, this is like, you finally get that signature win that they had to have to get into the playoffs. Now they have to beat not only this game, they have LSU next week, which LSU's super talented. I think it's an absolute gauntlet of a schedule for Oklahoma. I think you take Missouri here. I just think Missouri's the play. I think Missouri will be one of those, this is the biggest letdown spot Oklahoma could possibly have, because you're like, woo, we're going to be in. We beat Alabama. And it's like, oh, this is the SEC. Next week, another good team. And Drinkwitz has done an unbelievable, there's a reason why everybody wants this guy. He is a great coach. Venables, people were thinking this might be the year he goes out. How about he could make the playoffs? So great season. They could win by a touchdown. You still get it. Give me the hook with Missouri plus 7.5 in this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on all the great content we have here at Doc Sports. Tulsa at Army, the next game we're looking at. Army minus 10, total 45.5. What do you like?
So Tulsa 3-7, Army 5-4. Tulsa off of a huge win against Oregon State, 31-14 as a 1-point dog. Maybe things are turning around with their new coach. Army comes off a nice win against Temple, 14-13. Did not cover the -7. For this game, keep in mind that Army beat them 49-7 last year. Tulsa, I feel like, it certainly has the offense. They lost to Temple by 1, though, on the road. Army, of course, comes in, big wins against Air Force and Temple here. I think what happens here, I'm going to take the plus 10 on Tulsa. I think with the first-year coach, they are building some momentum coming into this game. I really thought they played better. I mean, they covered against ECU, Temple, and big win against Oregon State. Maybe they're buying into this new coaching staff here. I understand Army is 5-4. Army's got UTSA on deck too. Army has not won 3 in a row all year. I'm taking the plus 10. Craig, Delaware plus 17 against Wake Forest here as a solid dog. 5-5 and 7-3 team here. No doubt that Delaware comes off a 12-point. They were 12-point favorites against Sam Houston State and lost outright, 23-26 on the road. Wake Forest, no doubt about it. They're a good team. They continue to prove it. They lost to Georgia Tech by 1, but they had that one bad hiccup against FSU, coming off a huge win against UNC. They do have Duke on deck. Who do you like?
Yeah, I don't know if you give them any credit for UNC. UNC, if you watch that game, played absolutely terrible. It was like they had been building, had improving, and all of a sudden it was just like, boom, hit a wall. Did not play well. You give Wake for credit, they did show up. That's all they had to do in that game was show up. Now they face a team in Delaware that was for sure looking past Sam Houston. I believe they only had 1 win, and the 1 win was the week before, so they won back-to-back weeks. Delaware is not a good enough team to look past teams, and that teaches them a good lesson. But I like them in this spot plus 17. Wake Forest has Duke on deck next week, and Wake Forest wins this one, they could end up going 9-3 potentially if they beat Duke and Delaware. So what a season it would be for Wake Forest. I think it's a look over spot though. Give me Delaware. I don't think they're nearly as bad as what that game was last week. Delaware plus 17 and a big bounce back. Louisville at SMU. Louisville had everything in front of them just 2 weeks ago, and they have just not played well the last 2 weeks. SMU's favored by 2.5, total 52.5. What do you like here?
Yeah, the ACC has certainly gotten good, huh? People didn't know how SMU was going to work out, but Lashley has been the answer for them. Huge wins after that Wake Forest loss, 12-13, which was crazy for SMU to be favored by 5 against Wake Forest. I mean, because they had come off that big wins against Stanford and Clemson, but we were pretty high on SMU in this podcast. But regardless, this team comes off really high on Wake Forest coming into this podcast. Big wins against Miami, big win against Boston College. Louisville, tough back-to-back losses to Clemson and Cal. Louisville has to show up here, man. This is a team that beat Miami on the road. I don't think they lose 3 in a row. And the only reason why they lost to Clemson is Clemson had revenge against them from last year. That's the reason why that line was only -2. There's a reason why they're only a 2.5-point dog here. SMU also comes off one of its biggest win of the year, 45-13. How do they handle the success? I don't think they handle the success well. Plus, SMU beat them 34-27 last year. Dangerous spot here for SMU. I'm back in Louisville plus the 2.5. Craig, Minnesota +4 dog against Northwestern on the road. Minnesota is 6-4. Northwestern is 5-5. Minnesota lost to Oregon 13-42 last game, but it looks like they're going bowling, right? They're coming off a bad loss, though. Every time Minnesota comes off these big losses, right? 3-42 or 3 against Ohio State, 3-41 against Iowa, 13-42 against Oregon. They bounce back with a straight-up win. Northwestern off of a tight loss. But still covered against Michigan 22-24. What do you like here? Minnesota off of a big loss, Northwestern off of a loss. Northwestern beat them last year in overtime, or 2 years ago, rather.
Well, Northwestern has a tough schedule left. They have this one in Illinois, and they probably will be a pretty big favorite against Illinois. They got to win one of these two to be bowl eligible. So that game, that close loss to Michigan, that could have put them bowl eligible. Then maybe you think a letdown spot here. I don't think there's a letdown spot, even though they played great last week in Wrigley Field. We liked Northwestern last week. I like them again this week. I also think when you get there's a couple teams after you play Oregon, I think there's a big letdown spot because man, you have to face the million plays because they play so much faster than other teams. I think this is a really tough spot for Minnesota. Northwestern becomes bowl eligible and covers Northwestern -4.
Next. Don't forget free $60 worth of free premium selections, docsports.com/ICCT. If you want to try us out, that is the best way. Free $60 worth of premium selections. You try Craig and I out, and you get our premium selections and our fantastic analysis piped in there.
Next game, Rutgers at Ohio State. Ohio State just keeps on moving. 8-1-1 against the spread this year. I mean, they have just been absolutely money. 31.5-point favorite, total 55.5. It's like, how do you bet against Ohio State at this point,
They always seem to know the number, don't they? And, this team is 8-1-1, like you said. Keep in mind that they played Rutgers 2 years ago and won 35-16. Rutgers off of a big win against Maryland, 35-20. Nice win against Purdue. They are 5-5. They got to win either this game or the Penn State game to go bowling. And I'm glad these 5-win teams don't go bowling because it makes bowling mean something, So I think that is a nice spot here for the 6-win spot. Ohio State, as far as, they have Michigan on deck, so they could be looking ahead here. But they've had a lot of look-ahead games, but that hasn't necessarily affected them. I will tell you this. I was impressed by the fact that Rutgers, the fact that they were able to go into Maryland and sort of win this game. But I think Ohio State has bigger fish to fry. I think when you take a look at this total here at 55.5, it does seem a bit high to me. I think Ohio State will do well, but then they're going to just take the gas off the pedal and focus on the Michigan game. I can see this game probably going under the posted total. Craig, Charlotte plus 43-point dog against Georgia. Huge line here. Charlotte is 1-9, of course. This is a team that lost to Temple 14-49 or South Florida 26-54. Georgia has a big game against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech is not a school to take lightly. They barely beat Georgia Tech last year, but we've been saying about that Georgia forever. It's the fourth quarter that they always seem to come back and show up. Georgia off a big win against Texas, of course, covering that game. What do you like here?
Yeah, earlier in the year when Georgia faced lesser talent like this, they did not play so great. Austin Peay, they won 28-6. Marshall, 45-7. I just think they have a lot more planned. They have the SEC championship. They're going to be in that. Like you said, you fight your rival, Georgia Tech, next week. Take the points. It's going to be ugly, but take Charlotte plus the 43. I think Georgia, they might shut them out. It might be like 38-0, but that still gets us a cover. Next game, Baylor and Arizona. Arizona had a nice win at my Bearcats last week. They cost me by this much the week before, so they were on my do not bet list, so I couldn't bet them last week. Maybe they're on my list this week. Never know. Arizona -6.5, hosted in Baylor, total 62. What do you like?
Baylor losing 28-55 is always an ugly game, and losing to Cincinnati 20-41 prior to that. Did beat UCF though, so keep that in mind. Arizona is a team here that has won 3 in a row coming in. They have a former coach that was in that Patriots line. of coaching, beating Cincinnati, Kansas, and Colorado. Huge wins of Baylor off of a big loss, Arizona off a couple big wins. But Arizona has Arizona State on deck. But Baylor is off their biggest loss of the year since that Cincinnati game. So I would say the Cincinnati loss and the Utah loss were the two biggest losses for them. I'm going to take a flyer here on Baylor plus the points. I just think they're going to show up here. And remember, they only lost to Arizona State by 3 points earlier this year at home. Arizona, of course, comes off a nice win against Cincinnati, but it's a team. I'm pretty high on Arizona as well, but they do have Arizona State on deck, and I just think Baylor was going to decent public fade. They're going to show up and sneak inside the number is my gut feeling here. Washington State hooking up against James Madison here. Keep in mind that Washington State is 5-1 and James Madison is 9-1. Washington State has turned their corners, Craig. They've covered 5 of their last 6. James Madison coming off a nice win against App State and has Coastal Carolina on deck. What do you think happens here? They've never met.
JMU is, I think, have a real shot to make the, if Tulane would lose, right now Tulane's the last team in the, the at-large team from the non-Power 4 conferences. I think JMU's the next team. They just have to win, but they need to win and win impressively. I think that has them pushing this line. I'm going to lay the JMU minus 14. It's a tough travel spot for Washington State, traveling across country as well. ODU at Georgia Southern next game. ODU is a nice team. 7-3 on the year. They're minus 12.5 on the road here. Total 63 facing a Georgia Southern team that needs to find one win to become bowl eligible. What do you like?
Yeah, look, ODU is 7-3 and Georgia Southern is 5-5. ODU, of course, has won 3 in a row and has big wins against Troy, Louisiana, Monroe, and App State. Georgia Southern, of course, has the former USC coach Clay Helton. Nice wins against Coastal Carolina and App State, but they haven't won 3 in a row all year. I do like the fact that ODU has won their last 2 games by a score of 64-6, right? And then you have, ODU beat them 47-19 last year, just throttled them last year too. So the question is, how well can Georgia Southern sort of hang tough? But it does. I mean, look, minus 12.5 is a huge line. It's complete disrespect to Georgia Southern, to be honest with you, because they just don't think Georgia Southern can hang tough this game. I will tell you that the fact that Georgia Southern, the game that was really interesting to me was ODU beat the snot out of Virginia Tech 45-26. Okay, so that meant something. And don't forget, ODU is one of the rare teams that took Indiana to the limit, right? 14-27. I'm going to lay it here. I'm going to lay it on ODU. I think they're just playing exceptionally well right now. Georgia Southern coming off 2 big wins, too. I can see them having a letdown. There's a lack of consistency in Southern in their coaching. I'm going to take ODU minus the 12.5. Craig, Ball State here facing Toledo as a 27-point dog. Is that right? Yes, 27-point underdog. 4-6, 6-4 teams hooking up here. Ball State off of a loss to Eastern Michigan. Toledo off of a nice win against Miami of Ohio, covering back-to-back games. What do you like here?
Yeah, Toledo's the what-ifs. They had a couple ugly losses, but this is senior night, and this is a team that's been together for a little while. I think this is like, hey, we want to go out and absolutely – and Ball State, they pretty much have no chance to go bowling. I think they play Miami of Ohio next week at Miami of Ohio, so they'd have to win both these games. That's not happening. I think Ball State plays a little discouraged, and Toledo on senior night gets way up. I think this is a big blowout. Lay the 27. Next, Nevada at Wyoming. Wyoming minus 7. They need to win out to get bowl eligible. Total 40.5 hosting in Nevada. What do you like?
So, yeah, when you take a look at this game, you'll see Nevada as a +7 underdog here. 2-8 and 4-6 teams here. Nevada coming off a huge win against San Jose State, 55-10 as a 9.5-point dog. Jesus Christ, what a huge win. Wyoming, of course, comes off back-to-back losses to Fresno and San Diego State. This was a team that I was pretty high on early this year. I thought they could maybe sneak inside for the bowl season. Coming off back-to-back losses, they have Hawaii on deck. The question here is, how does Nevada respond to such a monster win? And, keep in mind – coming in as only a touchdown dog. I think what happens is that this game probably goes under. I don't see Nevada putting up 55 points like they did last game. They had put up 14 and 3 points 2 weeks prior. Wyoming, when they do well, they play great defense, such as beating Colorado State 28-0. They come up back-to-back 24 points, giving up 24 points. I'm going to take the under here. Craig, Mercer and Auburn. This is a couple of schools that I know really, really well in the Southeast. So keep in mind that Mercer comes in as a 29.5-point dog. Don't forget, Mercer is ranked in the top 10 in Division II football. The Bears are quite good. What do you like here?
Yeah, I think remember, Auburn has Alabama next week. They need to win this game, and you never know. We've seen the Iron Bowl be huge upsets. If they would beat Alabama, they'd go bowling. Which, considering how talented this team is, I do not say they have no chance in that one. They have talent. They just didn't put it on the field. I think Mercer, though, gets up for this. They catch Auburn, take the plus 29.5. They lose, but they do cover. Next game, Missouri State, Kennesaw State. Two great stories this year, both 7-3 on the year. Missouri State has petitioned to try to, since it's their first year, they're trying to become that they would be able to go to a bowl, even though were supposed to sit out this year as far as bowls. Kennesaw State's favored by 6.5, total 57.5. What do you like?
Missouri State, what a story. They lost to USC, giving them 70 points to open the year, and everybody thought that this team was going to be horrible. Then the next week, they go on the road to beat Marshall. I took Missouri State that game. Look, man, Ryan Beard is a heck of a coach. He was a defensive coordinator for a while. This guy is young. He's talented, and it's obvious that he has really turned this team around. So give him a lot of credit here. As far as this game is concerned, big wins against UTEP, Liberty, FIU, New Mexico State, Middle Tennessee. That's the thing, man. These schools, these other schools are also coming around, right? Kennesaw State, Missouri State. So when you're a school that's longstanding, you have a window. Similar with the Bills having a window until the Patriots got better. You have a window, and if you don't hit that window, that is difficult. Keep in mind that he was an assistant, Ryan Beard, at Western Kentucky for a while. He was on the Louisville Cardinals staff for a while, as well as the Central Michigan staff for a while, too. So he's a very talented coach. Kennesaw State has a former NFL coach, right? The running backs coach of the Jaguars. He's really built this team up, too. They come off a loss, Jacksonville State, 26-35. This is a tough game. What are you going to do here? Are you going to take Kennesaw State off of a loss, or are you going to take Missouri State, who continues to cover on a regular basis? It is a hard game to predict. I will tell you that this total, it was interesting to me. It's sitting at 57.5. I think what you have is two frustrated teams. I think Missouri State is going to be an active dog, and I think Kennesaw State is going to be really ticked off coming off of a loss and looking to blow out somebody. I'm going to take the over here, Craig.
Don't forget, get in on our 2-for-1. That's both Indian Cowboy and my picks for football for the week. All you got to do, DocSports.com/Craig Aroon. Instead of $99 each, it's just $99 for both of us. Good luck. See you in.
Craig, Marshall, 5-point chalk here on the road against App State. Marshall, despite the fact that their coach left, they're 5-5, and they beat Georgia State 30-18 last week. App State comes off an ugly loss to James Madison, 10-58. Marshall did beat them 52-37 last year. Who do you like?
Well, both of these teams are not bowl eligible. Marshall needs one win. App State's got to win this one and next week. This is the harder one. Next week, they should win at Arkansas State, I think, or have a better chance, I would think. I think App State gets up. They played terrible last week. I think that was a wake-up call, and this is a pretty proud, franchise, team. Like, this team's gonna step back up. I think they win this game outright, but I'll take the points just in case. Take the 5. Next game, USF at UAB. It's like no one wants to win this conference. Every time somebody beats somebody else, they step up, then they lose the next game. USF is favored by 21.5 at UAB, total 70. What do you like here?
Yeah, first of all, notice the total is at 70. South Florida, of course, comes off a tough loss against Navy, 38-41. They were favored by 9.5 that game. That was a game where they were getting dominated, 9-24. They were not ready for that game. And honestly, with the way they were cheering at Florida, I'm kind of glad they got their butts beat by Navy. It kind of humbles them a little bit here. The last time they lost to Memphis, they came back to beat UTSA 55-23. At the end of the day, South Florida is still coached by Alex Golesh, the former Tennessee offensive coordinator. UAB, of course, comes off 3 straight losses to Connecticut, Rice, and North Texas, but they've been playing pretty well. This is a very high total. The only way to look at this game for me is the over. I can see UAB as an active dog. I can see South Florida mad at the world and wanting to put up some points. Therefore, I like the over between these two teams. Craig, Sam Houston State plus 6.5-point dog against Middle Tennessee. Sam Houston State off of a monster win against Delaware as a 12-point dog, off of a monster win against Oregon State as an outright 21-point dog. Back-to-back huge wins for them. Middle Tennessee State did not cover back-to-back games against Western Kentucky or FIU. The question here is, does Sam Houston State keep it rolling, or does Middle Tennessee State finally bounce back? Why is a 1-9 team favored by 6.5, despite the fact the Sam Houston State team just beat 2 monster outright dog wins?
Money line. Take the money line, Sam Houston. This Middle Tennessee State team, I got to see a little of the last few games. Not pretty. It was like, I don't know if they think they're playing two-hand touch. It's like they just don't tackle well. Sam Houston's playing great football the last 2 games. It like when you watch those last 2 games, Sam Houston, it was not fluke. They were up the entire game in those. Give me Sam Houston money line. I think they win outright. Next game, UConn at FAU. UConn, great season, 7-3. Mora has really turned this program around. FAU just 4-6 in the year. Need the last 2 wins to become bowl eligible. UConn's favored by 7, total 66.5. What do you like?
UConn, huge win against Air Force, Duke, UAB. He has turned this program around. I guess, one man's trash is another man's golden thing. And once the Atlanta Falcons got rid of him because of the Michael Vick situation, he came over here and he's done really well and sticking for these guys here in UConn. As far as Florida Atlantic's concerned, they come off a tough loss against Tulane, 24-35. Huge win against Tulsa, covered against Navy. They're playing pretty well. FAU has a good offensive coordinator. Very good offensive-minded guy. Scored 27 points against a pretty good Rice defense as well. Put up 26 on a Memphis defense. I think what happens here, Connecticut won 48-14 last year. I think Connecticut's 26 points is the lowest they've scored since September 27th. I think they're going to put up a lot of points here. I love Florida Atlantic as a decent dog here. They put up 24 against a good Tulane team as well. FAU, by the way, put up 14 points in the fourth quarter coming back in that game. I love the over here, the over 66.5. It makes a lot of sense to me. Craig, New Mexico State 3-point dog against UTEP. New Mexico State 3-7, coming off back-to-back covers against Kennesaw State and Tennessee. Tough teams to play. UTEP coming off a loss against Jacksonville State and Missouri State. Another two set of tough teams to play. UTEP did beat them 42-35 last year. Who do you like?
Well, I think sometimes when you play one of the big teams, like, when you lose to Tennessee by that many points, you get a little value the next game on the number. And that's the case here. I think this should be maybe a 1 or 2 point, maybe 1.5. I would probably UTEP as the favorite. But we get that extra points. Take New Mexico State. They're the better team. You can tell that a lot of times because UTEP's getting a lot of points. They're 3-6-1 against the spread, which means even when they're playing, they're not even coming close. Give me New Mexico State +3. Next game, Liberty at Louisiana Tech. I think Louisiana Tech's way better than their 5-5 record indicates, but they say you are what your record says. Liberty's favored by 1.5, total 45. I was a little shocked on this line. I thought it would be flipped the other way.
Well, Liberty comes off back-to-back losses to FIU and Missouri State. And the fact they lost to Missouri State by 4, I think, is kind of impressive, even though they were favored by 7. We were way ahead of the line on Missouri State more than anybody else. Liberty, not by accident, beat Delaware by 29 points. They beat New Mexico State and UTEP as well. They played Old Dominion tough, only losing by 14. They played James Madison somewhat tough and Jacksonville State somewhat tough. I know Louisiana Tech comes off back-to-back losses to Delaware and to Washington State. And they lost to Kennesaw State as well. But at the end of the day, I thought Liberty was playing pretty well coming into this game. I think they continue. Even that game against FIU. Keep in mind that this team lost in overtime. I think Liberty is due for a big win here. I'm going to back Liberty here for the big win. Craig, Kentucky plus 10-point dog against Vanderbilt. Kentucky is 5-5, trying to go bowling here. They got Louisville on deck. They did win their last 3: Auburn, Florida, Tennessee Tech. Vandy comes off a big win against Auburn here. Keep in mind that Vandy beat them 20-13 last year. Vandy does have Tennessee on deck. Who do you like?
Tough spot because they get their rival, in-state rival next week. But Vandy can't afford they can't even allow this game to be close, in my opinion, because they're outside looking in as far as the playoff rankings. If they win out, there'll be other teams that lose in front of them. I think they'll be the team that gets that bid. Obviously, next week is a much tougher game. But I think Vandy doesn't have any let up here. And Kentucky has their rival next week in Louisville. So I think they're looking forward to that game. They still need to win one of these 2 games to become bowl eligible. I think they have a much better chance next week. I think Vandy wins. And this is senior night. I think they'll put up a bunch of points. Give me Vandy minus the 10. Next game, Arkansas at Texas. Just the season it's just not been the season that Texas wanted. Texas is favored by 9.5, total 57.5 against, of course, interim coach in Petrino in Arkansas. Arkansas, disappointing season is coming to an end. Probably, thank goodness for most of their fans. What do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, look, Texas, 7-3. That loss to UGA, 10-35. I mean, they're really going to regret that Florida loss, 21-29. But Florida played Ole Miss tough, so I told you that Florida was pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see how patient Texas is, and I think they just have to be patient here. What else are you going to do at this point? Arkansas played really great against LSU, losing by 1 point. Look, this team is not going to go bowling. This is their bowl game, if you will, against Texas. After this is Missouri, but obviously they're looking forward to the Texas game. I know Texas is off of a loss, but Texas hasn't covered since October 11th, okay? They've only covered twice this season. They've been terrible ATS 2-7-1. Arkansas gets up for this game. Texas beat them 20-10 last year, and you're going to give Bobby Petrino an opportunity to hang tough. I think he hangs tough fine. I would have even taken Arkansas plus the 6.5, and they're getting plus 9.5. Give me Arkansas here. Jacksonville State plus 1 dog against FIU. Jacksonville State 7-3, FIU 5-5. Craig, why is the +1 dog the team that has won 5 in a row coming in, including beating Kennesaw and Delaware? FIU Panthers, big win against Liberty in Middle Tennessee State here. And they beat them 34-31. So FIU, Jacksonville State beat them 34-31 last year. Maybe FIU gets revenge. What do you think?
You should be running from this game. Running. Do not bet this game. We're going to give you a pick on it, but do not bet this game. Like you said, why is Jacksonville State? They've won 5 in a row. Beat all those teams we've talked about. Kennesaw State, all those teams that, like great, really good teams, underdog teams that have done more. They beat all those teams, yet FIU it's a pick 'em game, basically. You take FIU, I think, in this game. I think it tells you something. FIU beat Western Kentucky. I think Western Kentucky is a really good team. That was an impressive win. If they play like that, I think they have a chance to win this game. And the odds makers are telling you, they're alive. So take FIU even on the confusing line. Duke at North Carolina. Duke's favored by 6.5. Big rivalry game here, of course. Duke needs to win this game to become bowl eligible. UNC's coming off, a confusing game. They just did not play well. Duke's favored by 6.5, total 52. What do you like?
UNC rushed for 56 yards that game. That's not good. Duke comes off of a tough loss against Virginia and Connecticut. They didn't play well against Virginia at all, man. They were a 5-point favorite. I thought they were going to do a lot better. They were just terrible. It's 3 points in the first half, and they just laid a massive, massive egg. That's a game where they only passed for 213 yards as well. There's only one way to look at this game for me. North Carolina after this game has NC State. Duke, of course, has Wake after this game. Duke understands that if they don't win this game, they could easily lose to Wake and not make the bowl. I like Duke here to get it done. I think Duke gets out here focused. And I'm going to back Duke again, minus the 6.5 here, but it won't be on my card. Craig, USC here facing Oregon. USC is a 10-point dog. USC is 8-2 this year. They lost to Notre Dame, and they lost to Illinois. Not terrible losses. They come off a nice win against Iowa, but didn't cover at home. Oregon comes off a big win against Minnesota, 42-13, but they have looked shaky at times, such as winning 21-7 against Wisconsin. Who do you like here?
I like USC a lot in this spot. This is probably going to make my card. Hopefully going to get 10 by game time. The big thing for USC, they play UCLA next week, so you got to think they're going to win that one. If they beat Oregon, it's going to flip-flop. Oregon's going to be out, in my opinion, and USC is going to be in. I don't know if they could have enough to beat them outright, but I do think Lincoln Riley, he's kind of an offensive, I won't say genius because we'll hold that back, but he's very talented. I think he'll have some very creative plays that gets him a couple nice scores that keeps him in this game. And all you want, if you're USC, is a chance in the fourth quarter. Like keeping it within a touchdown most of the game, and let's have a chance to get a stop late and drive and win the game. I think they'll get that. Give me USC 9.5, 10, whatever. I think they cover. Next game, another Big Ten matchup. Speaking of a team that just played that USC team, Iowa probably should have won that game. They played great. Was this close. The guy was toes on the line, or they would have kicked a field goal to tie or have a chance to win late. Iowa minus 16.5, total 42.5. What do you like?
Yeah, Iowa being 6-4, I want to just point out they're one of the rare teams that gave Indiana trouble, losing 15-20, gave Oregon trouble, losing 16-18, and gave USC trouble, losing 21-26. Iowa has been a moneymaker this year, 7-2-1. Michigan State, of course, comes off a tough loss to Penn State, which probably should have been my 8 unit, but then again, I don't know if I'm even going to do 8 units anymore. I'm probably going to stick to a lot of 7 units and have a winning season, but that's a different story. But Michigan State comes off of that loss to Penn State. Look, they're not going bowling. They're 3-7. They got Maryland on deck. They did cover against Michigan, Indiana, and Minnesota. They are playing well, but Iowa coming off back-to-back losses. That's interesting. This is the most Iowa. Last time Iowa was such a big favorite was against UMass minus 35, and they rolled. I think Iowa rolls here coming off back-to-back losses. Don't forget Michigan State beat them last year too. I think Iowa does well in this game. Craig, Syracuse plus 35.5 point dog at the hands of Notre Dame. Syracuse losing to Miami 10-38 last game. Notre Dame, of course, beating Pittsburgh 37-15. They needed some style points. They certainly got it. They're sitting at 8-2. Notre Dame, according to the last ranking, was sitting at 9th in the country. What do you like here?
I think Notre Dame's really good. Like the what ifs. If they late game against Miami, they had a chance there. They had a chance against A&M. If they win one of those 2 games, you're talking about one of the top 4 teams in the country. And those other teams that won are going to all be in the playoffs most likely. So I like Notre Dame here. The 35.5, I'll buy the half a point to 35. I think this is I believe it's is it senior night for Notre Dame? Let me look. They might have one more home game. Let me look. Next week they play at Stanford. Yeah, so this is senior night. I think they'll have a big sending out of these seniors. I think this senior class has done great, obviously, all the way to the championship game last year. Lay the 35 in this one. Next game, Southern Miss at South Alabama. South Alabama, I think, is the best 3-7 team I've seen in a very long time. But they find ways to lose games. Like Major Applewhite has not done himself any favors at getting a better job. Southern Miss favored by 2, just the opposite for Southern Miss. They have overachieved. Coach Huff coming over from Marshall. Marshall, I don't know what you were thinking, but he's brought that here. Favored by 2, Southern Miss here, total 54.5. What do you like?
It's a bad spot here for South Alabama, in my opinion. Southern Miss comes off that 14-41 loss to Texas State. It's a team that had beaten Jacksonville State, Louisiana Lafayette, Arkansas State. It's a team that played Mississippi State pretty tough. Losing 14-41 is not good. It's a team that didn't score in the first half against Texas State either, so keep that in mind. I think it's a good opportunity here. Southern Miss quarterback had 2 interceptions last game. You might wonder why Texas State showed up so much in that game. It's because Texas State had lost several games in a row, so it was only a matter of time before they turned things around. South Alabama did pick up a nice win against Louisiana Monroe, 26-14 on the road. They did beat Georgia State recently as well. But put it all together. By the way, Southern Miss has never beaten this team in their entire program. They've lost 5 in a row. I'm going to back Southern Miss on the money line here. Great. ECU against Tulsa here. ECU 2.5-point chalk on the road against Tulsa as a 60 total at 62. ECU 4 straight wins here. Big win against Memphis 31-27. They're going bowling. UTSA 5-5 need this game to go bowling here, but they haven't put together back-to-back wins since the middle of September. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, this could be a letdown spot for ECU. They've played great lately, but, good coaches don't allow those letdowns. And you're like, hey, we have a rare chance at Eastern Carolina to win 9 games. That does not happen in that program very often. I think they stay focused here. I think they take care of business, minus 2.5. Let's take ECU minus the 2.5. Next game, Tulane at Temple. Tulane is the team that's in the playoffs of the, outside of the Power 4, the automatic qualifiers. So all they have to do is win out, and this don't have a letdown here. Tulane's favored by 8, total 56. Summerall, keep them focused here.
8-2, 5-5 teams here. 8-2 team, obviously beating FAU and Memphis. Nice back-to-back big wins. Temple, I'm pretty high on Temple. They have lost back-to-back games to Army and ECU. They haven't lost 3 in a row all year. Keep in mind that Tulane, again, huge win against FAU. They did not cover that game. They have Charlotte on deck. It's not really like they're looking ahead here. Tulane beat them 52-6 last year as well. I think this is a dangerous game here for Tulane. I think Temple can hang tough. They certainly have the coaching because they have a guy who used to be the offensive coordinator and the head coach over, who's certainly talented when it comes to his wonderful offensive schemes. I think Tulane's in a bit of a trouble here. I'm going to back Temple plus the 8 here. Don't forget, Tulane did lay an egg at UTSA 26-48, and they didn't cover against FAU either. In that game against FAU, FAU put up 14 points in the fourth quarter. Give me Temple plus the 8, but it won't be on my card. Craig, Michigan minus 14-point chalk against Maryland. Maryland looks like unless they win this game and Michigan State, they're not going bowling. Maybe they treat it as their Super Bowl, coming off of a tough loss against Illinois here, 6-24. Michigan did win against Northwestern, but did not cover. They have not covered in their last 3 weeks. A lot of tight wins, including that shaky 21-16 win over Purdue, has Ohio State on deck. So Michigan off 3 straight wins, Ohio State on deck, Maryland desperate. What do you like here?
Remember, Ohio State's on deck for Michigan. So all they want to do is get healthy, stay healthy in this game, get to next week. They have Michigan. I believe it's at Michigan, Ohio State at Michigan next week. Maryland gave the vote of confidence for Loxley and this coaching staff for next year. I was a little shocked, even though they did play really better than their record suggests. But, as far as wins and losses, it has not been a great year for them. I do think this is a chance for them to sneak within this number. I think they get a backdoor cover. Anytime Ohio State, Michigan, the week of before the game, as they call it here in Ohio, is what they call it. Yeah, I think you always take the other teams because I think it's a big look over spot. Maryland plus the 14. Next game, TCU at Houston. Houston, I don't know how they're 8-2 because I've watched them play several games. It's like every game seems like it comes right down to the wire. They hosted TCU this week. Can they survive? Total's 55. What do you like?
Well, TCU again, a 1-point dog, total 55. They're 6-4. Coming off back-to-back losses to BYU and Iowa State. Those are tough losses. Do they really have like a marquee win? Maybe the SMU game is a marquee win. We expected more out of him after that big win against UNC in the opening day, but it was more that UNC was bad rather than TCU was good. So TCU, of course, losing 13-44 at the hands of BYU has to be frustrating for this team. As far as Houston's concerned, they have Baylor on deck, but that's not really a big on deck game. I will tell you that Houston can have letdowns too. They had a big win against Arizona State and then lost to West Virginia. They lost to Texas Tech 11-35. I think this is a game that TCU has to show up. They did lose to them 30-19 last year. TCU off back-to-back losses. They haven't lost 3 in a row all year. Give me TCU plus the 1 here. Craig, Georgia State plus 10.5-point dog against Troy. Georgia State coming off an 18-30 loss to Marshall. Troy off of a bad 0-33 loss to Old Dominion. Troy has not lost 3 in a row all year. Troy did beat them 28-7 2 years ago. Who do you like?
Well, Georgia State's been bad. They've lost 7 in a row straight up and 5 in a row against the spread. I thought a couple of weeks back they played South Alabama. I was like, oh, that's the game. They'll keep it within the number. We talked about how South Alabama. Nope. They lost by 7. Spread was 6. I think Troy needs this win, not for bowl eligibility, just to keep your program going the right direction. You do not want to finish the year 0-4. They play Southern Miss next week. Probably will be an underdog next week. Give me Troy minus the 10.5 in this one. Next game, back to the Big 12. Oklahoma State at Central Florida. Central Florida needs 2 wins, so you assume they're going to win this. I don't know if they'll cover. To go bowl eligible. UCF's favored by 14, total 48.5. What do you like?
So Oklahoma State, I feel like they've been playing a lot better lately. They did cover against Kansas State 6-14. They did cover against Kansas 21-38. UCF, of course, coming off an ugly 9-48 against Texas Tech loss. It looks like Scott Frost just does not have the magic that he used to have, and that's the thing, man. Once your system sort of gets figured out, it's constantly evolving. Bad, ugly loss. I mean, it is possible maybe they show up after that bad Texas Tech loss. They have lost 3 in a row. They're looking to try to go bowling. They got this game at BYU. So it doesn't look like it's going to happen here. Look, it's a tough game because UCF only scored 9 points in their last game. Oklahoma State, I feel like, is getting a lot better. But are they going to be able to cover this game? What I am going to take is I'm going to take the over in this game. And that way I get Oklahoma State as an active dog and UCF to take some frustration out on this team. Give me the over. Craig, Kansas State plus 17.5-point dog against Utah. Kansas State does need this game. They got to win this game or Colorado to get into the bowl. They had a terrible game against Oklahoma State, only won 14-6. Maybe they're looking ahead to this game. Utah coming off a big win against Baylor and Cincinnati. It's a season of what could have been for them, because if they beat BYU, they'd actually be 9-1. What do you like here?
I think this is one of the better teams in the country that probably doesn't have a shot to make the playoffs because they lost that BYU game. I mean, that game really comes down to it. If they're going to need some help, I think Cincinnati's going to have to beat BYU, and then it comes down to a big tiebreaker that they could end up potentially playing Texas Tech, and then they'd have to win that game to go to the playoffs. But I think they've just been great since those losses. They've played great football. I think Utah is the play. I would buy the 0.5 point at 17. I think Kansas State, their Super Bowl's next week because they'll get bowl eligible against Colorado, in my opinion. Next game, Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. Battle of the Carolinas. South Carolina is not going bowling, just 3-7 on the year. South Carolina's favored by 24, total of 50. Tough loss, like they should have won last week, up at half by 1 million and let A&M come back. How do they bounce back here?
I think that loss to A&M saved his job. I do, because it shows that Beamer can go into maybe the number 1 team possibly.
I don't think they're firing him, though, because if so, he would have taken the Virginia Tech job.
No, they're definitely not firing. What I mean is I think that really shows confidence in the AD, because he's like, man, he can go into A&M and be up 30-3 at the half. Wow, maybe this. And
Alabama, right? Didn't they have Alabama?
On the road too.
On Alabama.
Look, Shane Beamer is right there. Okay, he's right there, and for a young coach that's 48 years old, he's loved in South Carolina. Even though they're losing games, they love him there. You know what I mean? Who are you going to get that's better? I think as he matures a little bit, I think he will start to figure some things out. He basically needs a little bit of Kalen DeBoer in him, right? But needs to keep his fire and spunk, which I wish some people wish that Kalen DeBoer had a little bit more as Alabama fans. Coastal Carolina off of the 5-point loss here against Georgia Southern. Keep in mind that Coastal Carolina is right around the neck of the woods of South Carolina too. So they're going to want to put a beat down on this team if they can. They lost to Old Dominion 7-47. So why can't South Carolina beat the snot out of this team? They do have Clemson on deck. Craig, I'll tell you, that South Carolina Clemson game is going to be fascinating to me when that happens. So we'll talk more about that game. And of course, people love jumping on our podcast because we have so much to say about every single game. We've become a staple for so many. Coastal Carolina coming off that great, or South Carolina coming off that tough loss against A&M. How do I think this is going to play out? Keep in mind that South Carolina normally plays in the totals of high 40s, and Coastal Carolina plays in the totals of high 40s, early 50s possibly. This game comes in at 50. I'm going to back South Carolina here. I think South Carolina gets a lot of frustration out. I don't think they're going to be hungover, to be honest with you. I think a lot of press has been given about how they celebrated at halftime, which Beamer says they didn't. But I'm going to take a lean on South Carolina and a lean on the under. Do I like one more than the other? Probably I like the under more. So I'm going to go with the under more just because Coastal Carolina put up 40 points last game. And typically when South Carolina wins games, they have a tendency to go under, like that Kentucky 35-13 win. Craig, you have Furman Clemson. There's no line there, so we're going to move on here. Louisiana Monroe facing Texas Tech. Louisiana Monroe coming in as a 17.5-point dog. They come off a 14-26 loss to South Alabama as one of the few teams that will lose to South Alabama. Texas State beats Southern Miss 41-14, monster win there. But how did they bounce? How did they respond after that monster win? They did beat them 38-17 last year. Who do you like?
Tough way to get your team back focused. Yes, they need to win this game and the next game to become bowl eligible. But after you beat it was a big upset. They beat Southern Miss. They probably should not have won that game, but they did. Now and they killed ULM last year. I think is a huge letdown spot. I think ULM loses, but I think Monroe keeps it within the number. Give me the 17.5. Next game, Nebraska at Penn State. Penn State finally ended the drought. They lost the 6-game losing streak is over, and don't look now. They're favored by 9.5 here. Total 43.5. They have a chance to win out and become bowl eligible. What do you like here?
I like Penn State. Look, people are saying Matt Rule is going to coach this team. I don't think so. I think Penn State is going to think. I think Penn State thinks they can do better, to be honest with you. And I don't think Matt Rule is the guy. So
he already signed an extension, so he's not leaving.
He did, but keep in mind that this is a Penn State team that's going to prove that. Look, this was the right decision, right? Because I think Penn State moved on from Matt Rule. I think they were going to do him, going to sort of pick him or whatever, but I think they kind of moved on from him at some point. And at the end of the day, Nebraska still, when they lost to Minnesota and then lost to USC, it kind of showed that Matt Rule is a good coach, but he's not the answer, but he's certainly better than Scott Frost. And as it relates to Penn State here, Penn State beat Michigan State 28-10. Penn State is the only team, Craig, that made Indiana look mortal, and they lost to them by just 3 points, right? This is a team that lost to Iowa by 1 point as well. I think what happens in this game is that Penn State just lays the absolute wood on Nebraska. And Nebraska has Iowa on deck too. Penn State is a team that beat Michigan State. Keep in mind, when they beat Michigan State, they held Michigan State to about 128 yards passing. They were able to win that. They were able to win the Michigan State game passing for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. I like Penn State by 2 touchdowns here. Craig, New Mexico 3.5-point chalk here against Air Force, 55.5 total. New Mexico coming off 4 straight wins. Air Force coming off a loss to Connecticut, 16-26. New Mexico beat them bad last year. Who do you like here?
I like Air Force plus the 3.5. This is a Air Force team that had like 4 games that they had the chance to win late. Unfortunately, the defense wasn't great in those times, but at home, they're a different team. In the altitude, different team. This is a New Mexico team, already bowl eligible. I think this is a big lookover spot. They're like, hey, all of a sudden, pumping the chest. And you could lose by 3 and still cover. Give me Air Force plus the 3.5. Pitt at Georgia Tech. How will Pitt handle that beatdown? They took it. It was never close. Notre Dame never gave them any chance to win that game. Georgia Tech's favored by 2.5. Big, ton in front of Georgia Tech. Can Pitt rebound? That will be the question. Total 62. What do you like?
I like Pittsburgh for the upset plus the 2.5 here. I think this is the worst loss that Pittsburgh has lost all year. I can make excuses for Pittsburgh's loss to Louisville because I can make excuse.
They were up in that game, by the way.
What's that?
They were up against Louisville in the fourth quarter.
And they lost. Remember, they lost to West Virginia 24-31, looking ahead to Louisville. And then they lost to Louisville in a game where Louisville put up, 17 points in the second half and shut them out. They were up 27-17. So, this team had also beaten Syracuse and beat Stanford and now lost to Notre Dame 15-37. Georgia Tech coming off a nice win against Boston College, but they were favored by 16.5. You would think that they would bounce back bigger after losing to NC State, but they did not. They're certainly looking more mortal these days. I think Pittsburgh can certainly win this game. Narduzzi lost to this team in 2022 as well, so he's not going to overlook them. I think Georgia Tech loses. I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus the 2.5. Craig, Colorado State plus 16.5 point against Boise State. We keep thinking Colorado State's going to play well. They finally did against New Mexico, losing 17-20. But Boise State comes into this game losing back-to-back games. They're going to be super motivated too. Keep in mind, Colorado State beat them 2 years ago. Who do you like?
I mean, Boise. I knew they weren't going to be as good as last year. Like losing Genty, obviously, you're not going to be able to replace that. I just thought, they usually reload a little better. They're like the mini version of, the non-power 5, like Alabama. Mm-hmm. They just reload every year. That has not happened. I'm going to take the 16.5 here, or lay the 16.5 with Boise State. I just think this is just not a good Colorado State team. And I think Boise wants to have that one, hey, we're still Boise. And I think they get it here. Lay the 16.5. Good game here. North Texas at Rice. As far as bettors are concerned, this North Texas team is still 9-1. They still think they have a chance. They're going to need other teams to lose, like Tulane and possibly even maybe JMU. But they're like the third best team outside of the Power 5 at 9-1. They're 18-point favorites here. Do they need a little style points here? Is this like one of them that they run it up trying to get style points here, I see?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, North Texas, they beat UAB 53-24. Ever since they needed the style points after that loss to South Florida, they've been doing it right. They've been trying to destroy every team as much as possible. And I was all over North Texas against Navy because they needed that style points and they got it. Now they face a Rice team who just comes off a win against UAB. Rice hasn't won back-to-back games since early September. Rice has South Florida on deck as well. North Texas needs to win and win big. And if Rice had issues against Memphis 14-38, they're going to have issues against this team. I'm going to back North Texas here. And Rice is not a bad team at all, but I'm going to back North Texas here. Do remember that Rice had to come back to win a game against UAB. Rice only had 41 yards passing in their last game. I think North Texas could win big. I'm going to back North Texas here. Craig, Tennessee here, 4-point chalk against Florida on the road. Interesting game, 7-3 team on the road against a 3-7 team. Tennessee did not cover against New Mexico State, has not covered the last 2 weeks. What do you think happens here? Florida, of course, coming off a loss against Ole Miss in a game they played pretty darn well. They were up at the half, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. Yeah, they were up 24-20 before Ole Miss put up 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter. What do you think happens here? Keep in mind that Tennessee did beat them in overtime last year.
I think Tennessee wins this year. I think Florida used a lot of equity last week. That was the Lane Kiffin Bowl, as they're trying to, of course, recruit Lane Kiffin to be the coach next year, them and LSU, obviously, and pretty much everybody else out there that's got an opening. That's a tough one when you feel like, and they feel like every game Florida feel like they've had it in their grasp and they just let it go late. I think this is finally the one. I know it's a big rivalry, Tennessee, Florida, but I just think Tennessee gets up and it's a big letdown spot for Florida. Give me and remember, Florida now is officially eliminated from bowl. They can't go to a bowl unless they would win the last two and get the exemption. I think Tennessee wins and covers in the spot. Cal at Stanford. Stanford's better than I thought they were. That would be. I 3-7. I thought they would be lucky to get 2 wins. They're 3-7, and they're only a 3-point home underdog here against Cal. That's had a nice season, 6-4, total 46. What do you like here in this big rivalry spot?
Jesus, man, what a line that was so screwed up. Cal absolutely just won against Louisville. Just a monster win in overtime. And that game against Virginia Tech, when they lost in overtime, they certainly learned from that experience, didn't they? So you have an opportunity here for Stanford here to try to bounce back coming off a cover against UNC. They played Pittsburgh pretty tough, too. They have Notre Dame on deck, so I could be looking ahead. I am a little surprised. I'm pretty high on Cal. But keep in mind, Cal won 24-21 last year. Now they can only come in as a 3-point dog. So the question is, how does Stanford do well? Typically, when Stanford does well, they play somewhat decent defense. Cal, of course, putting up 29 points in their last game. The only thing that sort of makes sense to me is the under in this game. I think it's but at the same time, I mean, 71% backs Cal in this game. That scares the bejesus out of me. So keep that in mind too. Stanford, of course. I think the only thing that makes sense to me, Craig, is possibly the under in this game, but I'm staying far away from this game. If you want, it could be one of those games where Cal wins, but like by 1 point. You know what I mean? So I'm staying away from this contest, but I have a small lean on the under. I have a much bigger lean on the Illinois-Wisconsin game, which we'll talk about now, which will, Illinois comes in as a 7.5-point chalk against Wisconsin. They're 7-3. Wisconsin's 3-7. Illinois off back-to-back wins against Rutgers and Maryland. Wisconsin covered against Indiana, covered against Washington, covered against Oregon. 3 straight covers here. Wisconsin did beat them 25-21 2 years ago. Who do you like here?
It's senior night for Wisconsin, and we saw a couple weeks ago they beat a pretty good Washington team. if they play like that, they can win this game. And I think Illinois, they're the better team, clearly. It's just like they're begging you, when you put the half out, they're begging you to take Wisconsin. Sometimes you got to just listen to them. I'm going to take Wisconsin here. I just think on senior night is probably a very ugly game, probably a very low-scoring game. So I'll tell you what, I like to talk myself into the under. How about under and a lean on Wisconsin in this one? Next game, Western Kentucky at LSU. Of course, LSU, they're 6-4 in the year. Brian Kelly, of course, is no longer. They're in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes with other Summerall and other guys. Can Western Kentucky keep this close? Total 48.5.
Yeah, and Western Kentucky is obviously 8-2. Bear in mind, it's shocking to get that many points for a team that's 8-2. They did beat Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, but lost to FIU, though, and lost to Toledo 21-45. LSU coming off a big win against Arkansas. In a game where they didn't play particularly great. They were down 14-0, and typical of Arkansas, they kind of had a letdown in the second half. I think what happens here is that, Arkansas had a quarterback that threw for no touchdowns and 2 interceptions last game. I think this is going to be one of those games where LSU, of course, has Oklahoma on deck. They are 6-4. They have to win, and they have to win big. I hate to lay this many points here. Maybe Western Kentucky gets up, but if you give up 26 points to Middle Tennessee and you give up 27 points to Louisiana Tech, and LSU at the end of the day did lose to Alabama 9-20, I'm going to take LSU minus the points here, but it won't be on my card. Craig, BYU continues to surprise. They're 9-1 here. They're facing Cincinnati. They just throttle TCU. Their only loss is that Texas Tech game. Cincinnati, of course, comes off back-to-back losses, though, to Arizona and to Utah. So they're going to be super motivated coming in. Who do you like here?
Boy, this is a tough one. And being from Cincinnati, I was in town last weekend, and, man, they were talking – I knew they were probably going to lose to Arizona because they were talking about BYU last week. Like, we're going to beat Arizona, and then that game will be – whoever wins that will play in the Big 12 championship game. Well, that's how it works in football. If you don't come ready, each and every game you lose. But I do think Cincinnati had this one circled. So I think there's going to be a much better game from Cincinnati this week. I think BYU is a very good team. I respect them. I just think this is Cincinnati's Super Bowl. This is like – the whole season's on this. If they beat them, they feel like they had a great season, and they did. I mean, they'll be 8-3 with a game left. I mean, give me Cincinnati plus the 2 in this one. Maybe wait till game time. I see a lot of money coming in on BYU. Maybe this line moves to the 2.5 or 3. Next game, Arizona State at Colorado. Colorado, they're asking Deion about, is he the right man for the job? Of course, he still says he is, and I still think he is. I mean, we just forget Colorado was the worst team in Power 5 football before he got there, and they've been relevant, had a Heisman Trophy winner. But they're a 7-point underdog here at home, total 48. Arizona State, another good year by Dillingham. What do you like here?
Yeah, look, Deion is the right person for the job. There, I mean, Colorado's not going to do any better, to be honest with you, and they just need to get over that. As far as it relates to this game, Arizona State -7 here. You're going to have up and down seasons if you are Colorado. Keep in mind that Colorado beat them 2 years ago, 27-24. Arizona State, nice win against West Virginia, and Iowa State did not play well in the West Virginia game. They ended up letting West Virginia come back at the end, and they barely won. I do think that what happens here is that Arizona State plays a lot better. I know Colorado State comes off of a loss to West Virginia and to Arizona and to Utah. This game means, look, Colorado, if you are a commissioner in a conference, do you not need Arizona State to win this game big? Right. At this point, Colorado is not going to go bowling. I mean, this is a business decision almost, right? I'm not saying things are fixed, but this is a business decision. You want Arizona State to get into that 8-3 mark here, and they got a little revenge from a couple of years ago. I think Colorado's done for. I'm going to back Arizona State minus the 7 here. Craig, Utah State +3 dog against Fresno. Utah State coming off a tough loss against UNLV, but they played well. They're 5-5. Need to go bowling here. Lost only by 3 to a UNLV team on the road. They've had a good season. 8-2 ATS for Utah State. Fresno State coming off a big win against Wyoming, and Boise State back-to-back covers. Both these teams are winning programs right now, well, 5-5 for Utah State. But what do you like here?
Don't overthink this. Fresno -3. Fresno's going to need a little help. They are in that. There's a big group. There's 5-1. I believe San Diego State at the top of the Mountain West. So to be the second team to face them in the Mountain West Championship, there's like 4 or 5 teams at 4-2. Some will face each other and there'll be losses, but it's going to come down to it. Fresno cannot afford to let down. Give me Fresno -3 in this one. I think they've been a really good team. They've really only played one bad game in the last 6 or 7. I don't think that happens with so much on the line this week. Next game, San Jose State at San Diego State. We just talked about San Diego State. Just needs to win out. They're big favorite here. They should be big favorite again next week when they face New Mexico. So all they got to do is win one of these 2, and they'll probably be in. But if they win 2, they're definitely in. What do you like here? San Diego State -12.
So, a couple things here. First of all, San Jose State comes off the horrendous 10-55 loss to Nevada. I mean, things are a lot worse in San Jose State than we thought. They've lost a lot of tough games, but the margin for error is so small, Craig, in all of these games. So small in all of these games. They're coming off the worst loss of the year. San Diego State, of course, big win against Boise State. San Diego State is 8-2 ATS this year. It's been a phenomenal year for them. What kids here? San Jose State won 2 years ago. I just think after San Jose, they're not going bowling. They have Fresno on deck. They come off one of the worst losses of the year. They actually haven't lost 3 in a row all year. San Diego State comes off that huge win against Boise State. This will not make my card, but I will back San Jose State plus the 12 here. All right, Craig, you're going to finish us off here. Washington minus the 10.5 point favorite here against UCLA. Washington is 7-3. Been a good year for Fish. Coming off a big win against Purdue after that tough loss against Wisconsin. That should have been a possible 8-star for me. But keep in mind, before I forget, you got to jump on our YouTube Premium Thoughts here. That is really the edge. You get an extra video every single day from Craig and I. You get about 120 extra selections from me, a written analysis of every single ball game. If you're looking for a teaching channel, that's the way to go. And if you jump on Craig's channel, you get Craig's channel and mine for free combined. As it relates to football, one football week for me is $99. One football week for Craig is $99. You get them both combined for $99 with this link only. So be sure to jump on that. All right, Craig, getting back to this UCLA game. UCLA is 3-7. They had a couple of nice hits there. But, of course, they lost Ohio State and Nebraska in back-to-back games. Washington coming off one of their biggest wins. Who do you like here? Washington did beat them 31-19 last year.
This is a tough spot for both these teams. One, after you play, Ohio State's defense just beats you up. So when the next game, there's a little injuries and everybody's banged up. Then you have Washington. They have Oregon on deck next week. Mm-hmm. So it's like that, even though they had that disappointing loss at Wisconsin, that's kind of like probably still sticking in their craw a little bit. You have that big one next week that if you win that, you had a good season at Washington. I'm going to take UCLA plus 12.5. I just think it's a lot to overlook here for Washington, and that you can play bad. You can dominate and not win by double digits. 10.5, give me UCLA in this one. All right, a couple things for you. If you haven't done so, put in the comments what you like for today. People don't, sometimes after the fact they put, hey, this is what I like. Put it before the thing and be part of the community. People will answer on that and say what they like. So put in the comments. Also, I see just mentioned that you want to get on our best plays. The most common thing that's put in the comments is, what's your best play of the week? Our best play of the week is always right here for our customers. DocSports.com/Craig Ring. You'll get 14 football plays this weekend. $99. It's usually $99 each. You get us both for $99 at this link. And then, of course, if you want extra plays on top of that, all sports included, by the way, $49.99 a month will get you all 3 levels, or you can get the $19.99 and $4.99. The link is in the description to get in on it. All right, guys, have a great day. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up, put in the comments what you like, and we'll see you again next time.